On World News Tonight. Panic in Pakistan. In the midst of severe flooding, displaced victims now have to protect against new diseases. Prime time patriarchy. President Biden urges the nation to dispel extremism of all forms in his latest advance towards midterms. Fallout fears. UN inspectors voice rising concerns on nuclear plants affected by the continuing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Viva la Venice! Rowing enthusiasts have to go at Italy's famous Vogalanga Regatta.
This is Derana World News Tonight. Reporting from Colombo, here is Suzanne Shanali.
A very good evening and thank you for joining us on World News Tonight, and we start off with some breaking news. At least one cleric and several civilians have been reported killed in the city of the Herat. Despite this, the Taliban claims that they have improved security. An explosion rocked the Guzaga mosque in the city of Herat in western Afghanistan. At least one high-profile pro-Taliban cleric was killed as well as several civilians. There were also reports of several more people being wounded in the blast. Herat's people spokesperson Mohammad Rozoli said that Mujib Rahman Ansari with some of his guards and civilians have been killed on their way towards the mosque. The Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Muhajir in the tweet expressed strong condolences over Ansari's death and said that his attackers would be punished. The Taliban claim that they have improved security in the country since taking power around a year ago, but there have been several major attacks in recent months, some of them targeting busy mosques during prayers. There was no immediate claim of responsibility, but previous mosque attacks have been claimed by the Islamic State extremist group. The group has carried out a series of attacks against the religious and ethnic minorities in Afghanistan as well as Taliban targets. Many parts of Pakistan have been hit hard by devastating floods. Now the country faces outbreaks of diseases in these areas, mainly due to damaged sanitation facilities.
The World Health Organization reported on Wednesday that the flood crisis in Pakistan has further escalated the possibility of disease outbreaks, such as acute watery diarrhea, dengue fever, malaria, and COVID-19. It said the risk is higher, especially in areas where water and sanitation facilities have been damaged. Pakistan's Climate Minister Sherry Rehman also confirmed this warning on Wednesday in a news conference. Speaking to reporters, Rehman said swarms of mosquitoes have been found in the affected areas of Sindh, Balochistan, and Punjab, which increases the risk of waterborne diseases. The minister said earlier this week that the latest flooding has been caused by global warming and that Pakistan is responsible for less than 1% of global emissions. Climate change, she says, has made the climate in Pakistan a living hell and called for countries emitting large amounts of carbon dioxide to review their policies. Since mid-June, Pakistan has seen unusual rainfall significantly heavier than the annual average. At least 1,100 people have died from the floods. 1/3 of the country's territory is currently underwater, which has affected 33 million people. Meanwhile, the WHO has classified Pakistan as a Grade 3 emergency, the highest level of its internal grading system, requiring maximal WHO response.
Inspectors from the United States and the IAEA have issued fresh warnings on the Russian-controlled nuclear power plant in the midst of the war zone, claiming that the structural components in the plant have been severely affected.
Tonight, the UN's nuclear watchdog says the world cannot tolerate more damage to Europe's largest nuclear power plant, after inspectors finally got a first-hand look at damage from months of shelling.
I have just completed a first tour of the key areas.
The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency inspecting the plant for 5 hours, then issuing this warning.
It is obvious that the plant and the physical integrity of the plant has been violated.
Just hours earlier, the unprecedented mission to the Russian-held plant was threatened by intense shelling before and during the inspectors' journey across the front lines. Fighting so fierce, a nuclear reactor was shut down, and the head of Zaporizhia's regional administration feared the mission would be called off. Both Ukraine and Russia blame each other for violence around the plant. In nearby Zaporizhia, residents fearing the worst. lining up for iodine tablets, instructed to take them within 6 hours if radiation leaks.
Still in Ukraine, schools that had previously been turned into makeshift hospitals and bomb shelters in Ukraine are now welcoming back hordes of enthusiastic students to start a new academic year despite the continuing conflict.
It's the first day of first grade for these children in Ukraine. Just months ago, their school served as a bomb shelter and then a makeshift hospital. Local residents hid here from Russian forces. Now, it's welcoming back students for the school year, with the shelter still intact as the war rages on. Parents say all they can do is hope for the best. Nearly 2,300 schools have been shelled or bombed since the Russian invasion began, including this school in Mykolaiv. I want to go to school and see my classmates and teachers, says 5th grader Irina Korchkova. Air raid sirens go off as she speaks. She and others are here picking up their books to study from home, the same as 95% of children in this region. Victoria Polyakova, deputy head of the school, says it's left her heartbroken.
I remember that our school was very nice. It was very clean, it was very light. We have a lot of children. They were very happy at our school. So my heart is broken now.
More than 350 children have died, with hundreds of others wounded, during what Russia calls a special military operation. That's according to UN data, but the real number could be much higher.
Over in Iraq now, conflicts that have erupted due to political instability in the country are now no longer stagnant, as clashes have now started moving south from Baghdad to the country's oil hub, Basra.
Clashes among rival Shiite militants in the Iraqi city of Basra have killed at least 4 people, security officials said on Thursday, as violence from the worsening political crisis moved south to Iraq's oil-producing hub. It began with 2 days of intense street fighting in Baghdad earlier in the week, the worst the Iraqi capital has seen for years. The crisis amounts to a power struggle between the Shiite cleric Muqtada as-Sadr and mostly Iran-aligned Shiite parties and paramilitary groups. Sadr said he would quit politics, prompting his loyalists to storm this government complex in Baghdad on Monday. He called for calm on Tuesday and the violence promptly subsided. Omar Sami witnessed the latest outbreak in Basra.
Children were screaming, people were terrified in their homes, cars were smashed, all the houses here were hit by gunfire. So this is the car of a victim, it burnt. Who will compensate them? The government? The government is absent. The governor is saying that Basra is safe and nothing's happening and the situation is under control. Nothing is under control.
Both security officials in Basra said the latest clashes took place overnight in the centre of the city, and 2 of those killed were members of Sadr's Peace Brigade's militia. On Thursday morning, gunmen attacked government buildings in Basra, where security forces and paramilitary groups with links to Iran are stationed. Iraq has been without a government since an election in October, as the rival camps try to exert control over its formation. The violence has centred on Baghdad and the south, areas dominated by Iraq's Shiite majority. It has ruled the country since Sunni dictator Saddam Hussein's regime was toppled in 2003 by a US-led invasion.
In the United States, President Biden, in his latest national address, called for unity against all and any extremism, mainly focusing on the Republican Party.
Returning to where American democracy was forged long ago, President Biden with a call to action to protect the freedoms he says face real jeopardy.
I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology.
While touting the strength of the soul of the nation, he warned about extremes in the Republican Party.
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
10 weeks before the midterm elections, the White House insisted the president's message was not a campaign event.
No, it's not a political speech.
But House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy headed to the president's hometown of Scranton to demand Mr. Biden apologize for criticizing Trump voters.
President Biden has chosen to divide, demean, and disparage his fellow Americans.
Citing President Biden's record on crime, inflation, and immigration, McCarthy made a direct pitch for Republicans to take over control of Congress.
We must change direction in Washington before it is too late.
In this political season, defending democracy is a fight in itself.
Let's go into a short commercial break. We'll be back soon with more world news. Welcome back to World News Tonight. The aftermath of the Mar-a-Lago search has led to new developments in which Trump is facing off against prosecutors over introducing a third party into the courtroom showdown.
Tonight, the showdown over government secrets. Lawyers for President Trump and Justice Department prosecutors facing off in a federal courtroom over Mr. Trump's request for an independent third party, what's known as a special master, to review documents seized in that controversial search at Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. Tonight, the judge saying she'll rule on that request at a later date. Mr. Trump's lawyers arguing the judge needed to help restore public confidence by allowing more transparency into the government's actions and dismissing the investigation into the former president's keeping highly classified documents, comparing them to an overdue library book. The Justice Department opposes an independent review of the documents, saying they've already gone through them and acknowledging more than 500 pages may be protected by attorney-client privilege. The DOJ argues the classified documents belong to the U.S., not to Mr. Trump. Quote, because he is no longer the president, he had no right to take those documents. The judge today also saying she'll make public a more detailed list of what the FBI seized at Mr. Trump's estate. Tonight, Mr. Trump is zeroing in on this evidence photo of top secret documents in the DOJ filing that he says FBI agents staged in his office to sway public opinion.
They took documents and they put them all over the floor. And then they deceptively put out that picture.
For weeks, Mr. Trump and his allies have argued that he declassified the documents, but his lawyers have not made that argument in court. In a filing last night saying it should have been fully anticipated that the former president would have had sensitive material at his home and that the special master should possess a top secret security clearance. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump is speaking out about January 6th, saying he's financially supporting some accused rioters.
It's a disgrace what they've done to them. If I decide to run and if I win, I will be looking very, very strongly about pardons.
Amen.
Full pardons.
It comes the same day a retired NYPD officer received the longest sentence yet, 10 years for using a metal flagpole to assault a Capitol Police officer.
A dangerous and potentially deadly heat wave is currently gripping America as millions are under strict warnings from authorities over fresh outbreaks of wildfires that continue to spread at a rapid pace.
Facing a series of explosive new wildfires and now under the daily threat of looming blackouts, tonight most of California and some 40 million Americans across the West are suffering through unbearable heat.
With this heat coming up, it's probably going to be at home most of the week, honestly.
Cities pushed to the extreme. Forecasted highs today in Utah, Arizona, Nevada, and California, all well above 100 degrees.
The heat is too much for me.
With heat killing more Americans than any other extreme weather event, highs across the region are breaking records, soaring 20 degrees above average.
I've never dealt with something this hot before.
The sustained and extraordinary heat wave is expected to last nearly a week. Outside Los Angeles, where fires raged before sunrise, several firefighters were treated for heat exhaustion as overnight lows hovered in the 80s.
Very rapid fire growth and very, very explosive fire behavior.
And now, amid growing concerns over rolling blackouts, authorities are pleading for conservation. It comes as cities like Phoenix hire heat officers to create a plan on how to adapt to a warming planet.
We have hundreds of people dying in our county here in Arizona from heat each year, so it is a catastrophic hazard.
Tonight planning for an uncertain future while facing a dangerous present.
In an update on the COVID pandemic, China has placed millions of its citizens under renewed lockdown following fresh outbreaks of COVID-19 as the government persists in its hardline policy on containing the virus.
China's fifth biggest city, locked down. As of Thursday evening, the 21 million inhabitants of Chengdu are confined to their homes, with Chinese authorities attempting to contain a new COVID outbreak. The government released this statement.
The current state of epidemic control is abnormal, complex and grim. The aim is to decisively arrest the spread of the outbreak and guarantee the health of all citizens.
Chengdu, in the southwest of the country, recorded 157 cases on Thursday. All residents will be tested for the virus between Thursday and Sunday, and one person per household will be allowed out to buy essential goods, providing they test negative. The announcement led to major car manufacturer Volvo shutting down their factory in the city.
Due to the lockdown in Chengdu, Volvo Cars is temporarily suspending production to manufacturing plant there. We are assessing the impact on business, and we will continue to monitor the situation.
China is the last major economy persisting with a zero COVID policy, stamping out virus outbreaks with lockdowns, mass testing and lengthy quarantines.
Twitter is now listening to the needs of its users as the platform has announced it is running public tests on a much-awaited edit button for its premium version.
After years of user demands for an edit button, Twitter said on Thursday that it will test a feature that will allow paid subscribers to edit their tweets after they've been sent. Twitter said in a post, quote, "If you see an edited tweet, it's because we're testing the edit button. This is happening and you'll be okay." Twitter said subscribers who pay $4.99 a month for Twitter Blue will soon be able to edit their tweets to fix mistakes like typos, quote, "a few times within 30 minutes of publication." Nearly every other social media platform, including Instagram, Reddit, and Pinterest, have for years offered features allowing users to edit posts. In April, on the same day that Elon Musk disclosed a 9% stake in Twitter, he tweeted a poll asking his millions of followers whether they wanted an edit button. Over 70% said yes. Twitter is currently embroiled in a legal fight with Musk, who is trying to back out of his $44 billion deal to buy the company after alleging he was misled about the true number of spam and bot accounts. Twitter and its observers have debated whether allowing tweets to be edited could lead to harmful effects, such as the spread of misinformation. Twitter said edited tweets will have an icon and timestamp to display when the post was last edited. Users will be able to click on the label of an edited tweet and see the edit history and previous versions of the post.
Welcome back to World News Tonight, and for more news, let's take you around the world in a minute. Britain's antitrust regulator said Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Call of Duty maker Activision Blizzard could harm competition in gaming consoles. Africa-focused e-commerce business Jumia plans to reach its consumer base in remote and rural areas by partnering with Zipline, the San Francisco-based drone delivery company. Lufthansa said that it would do everything possible to minimize the effects of a pilot strike set to begin soon. The wife of former Malaysian Prime Minister was sentenced to 10 years in prison and fined over $200 million on charges of bribery. India's Prime Minister commissioned the country's first indigenously built aircraft carrier in the southern port of city of Kochi. And that's all the news we got for you tonight. Join us again on Monday for more news around the globe. In case you missed to watch any of the stories we aired tonight, you can always rewatch by catching us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/otherderana English. And we are leaving you tonight with visuals of Venice's Vogalunga Regatta, which attracts enthusiasts from all over the world every year, where boats set off from St. Mark's Basin. Stay safe and have a great weekend.